Good morning. Page 166. So the last part, they're escaping and they dropped their blanket off their horse. And so they knew that somebody could track their trail. Evening, 7 days now. The horse was grazing some way off. We went after it and shied it away. And it shied away, evaded us. Kolya grabbed it by the mane, but it dragged him along and he fell. It had freed its legs, its front legs, and now there was no holding it. We hunted it for 3 hours, wearing ourselves out, drove it in among the ruins, tried to slip a noose made from our belts around its neck, but still it wouldn't give in. We bit our lips, but we had to abandon it. All we had left was the bridle and whip. We ate and drank our last water. We shouldered the snacks with the food. We shouldered the sacks with the food and the empty bucket, and off we went. Today, we had the strength for it. The following morning caught us in an awkward spot, and we had to hide in some bushes not far from a road. Not the best of places. We could be spotted. A cart rattled by. We didn't sleep that day either. As the 8th day ended, we set off again. When we had gone a little way, we suddenly felt soft earth underfoot. The plow had been here. We went on and saw headlights along the roads. Careful now. There was a young moon up among the clouds, yet another dead and ruined Kazakh hamlet. Farther on, the lights of a village and the words of a song reached our ears. Hey lads, unharness the horses. We put the sacks down among the ruins and made for the village. With the briefcase and bucket, we had our knives in our pockets. Here's the first house, with a grunting piglet. If only we'd met him out on the step. A lad rode toward us on a bike. Hey pal, we've got a truck over there. We're moving grain. Where can we get some water for the radiator? The boy got off, went ahead of us and pointed. There was a tank on the edge. Of the village. Probably the cattle drank from it. We dipped the bucket and carried it away full without taking a drink. We parted with the lad, then sat down and drank and drank. We half emptied the bucket on one go. We were thirstier than ever today because we had eaten our fill. There seemed to be a slight chill in the air, and there was real grass under our feet. There must be a river near. We must look for it. We walk and walk. The grass is higher. There are bushes of willow. Where they are, there is always water. Reeds, water. No doubt, a backwater of the Irtish. Now we can splash around and wash ourselves. Reeds 2 meter high. Ducks start up from under our feet. We can breathe freely here. We shan't come to grief here. And this was when, for the first time in 8 days, the stomach discovered that it was still working. After 8 days out of action, what a torment it was. Birth pains are probably no worse. Then back we went to the abandoned village. There we lit a fire between the walls and boiled some dried mutton. We should have used the night to move on. But all we wanted was to eat and eat insatiably. We stuffed ourselves until we could hardly move. Then, feeling pleased with life, we set off to look for the Irtish. At a fork in the road, something happened for the first time in 8 days. We quarreled. I said right, Zhdanov said left. I felt sure that it should be right, but he wouldn't listen. Another of the dangers that lie in wait for escapers, falling out with one another. When you are on the run, one of your number must be allowed to have the last word, otherwise you are in trouble. Determined to have my way, I went off to the right. I walked 100 meters and still heard no footsteps behind me. My heart ached. We couldn't just part like that. I sat down by a haystack and looked back. Collier was coming. I hugged him. We walked on side by side, as though nothing had happened. There are more bushes now, and the air is chillier. We walked to the edge of a sharp drop. Down below, the Irtish splashes and bubbles and playfully breathes on us. You haven't a hope. We fall into it. Oh, sorry. We are overjoyed. We find a haystack and burrow into it. What about it? Tracker dogs? Still think they can find us? You have no hope. Still think you can find us? You haven't a hope. We fall into a heavy sleep. We are awakened by a shot, and dogs barking quite near. What is it then? Was our freedom to end so soon? We clung together and stopped breathing. A man went by with a dog, a hunter. We fell into an even deeper sleep, and slept the day through. This is how we spent our 9th day. When it got dark, we set off along the river. 3 days had gone by since we left the trail. A trail. The dog handlers would only be looking for us along the Irtish by now. They would realize we were making for the water. If we went along the bank, we might easily stumble into an ambush. Besides, it was hard work, and we had to go around bends, creeks, reed beds. We needed a boat, a light, a little house on the riverbank, the splash of oars, then silence. We lay low and waited for some time. They put the light out. We went quietly down to the water. There was the boat. Oh, I'm sorry. I just gotta get comfortable. I'm so sorry. Oh, so sorry. Excuse me. And a pair of oars, splendid. Their owner might have taken them with him. The sailor leaves his troubles ashore, my native element, quietly to begin with, without splashing. Once out in midstream, I rowed hard. We moved down the Irtish, and from around a bend, a brightly lit steamer come toward us. So many lights. Windows are all ablaze. The whole ship rings with dance music. Passengers, free and happy, stroll on the deck and sit in the restaurant, not realizing how happy they are, not even aware that they're free of their freedom, how cozy it is in their cabins. In this way, we traveled more than 20 kilometers downstream. Our provisions were running out. The sensible thing would be to stock up again while it was still night. We heard cocks crowing, put it to shore, and quietly climbed toward the sound. A little house, no dog, a cattle shed, a cow with a calf, hens, Zdenek is fond of poultry, but I say we'll take the calf. We untie it. Zdenek leads it to the boat, while I, in the most literal sense, wipe out our tracks, otherwise it will be obvious to the tracker dogs that we are traveling by boat. The calf came quickly as far as the bank, but stubbornly refused to step into the boat. It was as much as the two of us could do to get him in and make him lie down. Zdenek sat on him to hold him down while I rowed. Once in the clear, we could kill him, but that was our mistake, trying to carry him alive. The calf started to get to his feet, threw Zdenek off and heaved its forelegs into the water. All hands on deck. Zdenek hangs onto the calf's hindquarters. I hang onto Zdenek. We all lean too far to one side, and water pours in on us. We are as near as need be to drowning in the Irtish. Still, we drag the calf back in, but the boat is very low in the water. It must be bailed out. Even that must wait, though, till we can kill the calf. I take a knife and try to sever the tendon at the back of its neck. I know the place is there somewhere, but either I can't find it or the knife is too blunt and it won't go through. The calf trembles, struggles, gets more and more agitated. I am agitated too. I try to cut its throat, but it's no good either. He bellows, kicks, looks as if to jump clean out of the boat or sink us. He wants to live, but we have to live too. I saw away, but cannot cut deep enough. He rocks in the boat, kicks its sides. A silly idiot will sink us any minute now. Because he is so nasty and so stubborn, a red hatred for him sweeps over me. Though he were my worst enemy, and I start savagely, randomly pricking and jabbing him with a knife. His blood spurts forth and sprays us. He bellows loudly and kicks out desperately. Zhidana clamps his hands around the calf's muzzle. The boat rocks and I stab and stab again. To think that at one time I couldn't hurt a mouse or a fly, but this is no time for pity. It's him or us. At last he lay still. We started hurriedly scooping. That was horrible to read. That was really horrible. At last he lay still. We started hurriedly scooping out water with a bale and some tin cans, each of us using both hands. Then we rowed on. The current drew us into a side channel. Ahead lay an island. This would be a good place to hide. It would soon be morning. We wedged the boat well into the reeds. We dragged the calf and all our goods onto the bank, and to make the boat still safer, strewed reeds over it. It wasn't easy to haul the calf by its legs up the steep overhang, but once there was grass waist high and trees like a fairy tale. We had spent several years in the desert by now. We had forgotten what forests and grass and rivers looked like. It was getting light. The calf looked aggrieved, we thought, but thanks to this little friend of ours, we could now live for a while on the island. We sharpened the knife on a fragment of file made from our katyusha. I had never before skinned a beast, but now I was learning. I slit the belly, pulled back the skin, removed the entrails. In the depths of the wood, we lit a fire and started stewing veal and oats, a whole bucket full of it, a feast. And the best of all, we feel at ease because we are on an island. The island segregates us from mean people. There are good people too, but somehow runaways don't often come across them. Only mean ones. It's a hot, sunny day. No need for painful contortions to hide in a jackal's hole. The grass is thick and lush. Those who trample it every day don't know how precious it is. Don't know what it means to plunge into it breast high, to bury your face in it. We roam about the island. It is overrun by dog roses, and the hips are already ripe. We eat them endlessly. We eat more soup and stew some more veal. We make kasha with kidneys. We feel lighthearted. We look back at our difficult journey and find plenty to laugh at. We think of them waiting back there for us. We think of them waiting back there for our sketch. Oh, the show they were putting on. Cursing us, explaining themselves to the administration. Then we make a play of it. We roar with laughter. We tear bark from the thick trunk and burn in the following inscription with red hot wire. Here on their way to freedom in October 1950, 2 innocent people sentenced to hard labor for life took refuge. Let this sign of our presence remain. Out in the wilds here, it will not help our pursuers, but someday people will read it. We decide not to hurry on. All that we ran away for, we had our freedom. All that we ran away for, we have our freedom. It can hardly be more complete. When we read Omsk or Moscow, when we reach Omsk or Moscow, we also have warm, sunny days, clean air, green grass, leisure, and meat in plenty, only we have no bread and miss it greatly. We lived on the island for nearly a week, from our 10th to the beginning of our 16th day. In the thickest part of the woods, we built ourselves a shelter of dry boughs. It was cold at night even there, but we made up for lost sleep in the daytime. The sun shone on us all this time. We drank a lot, trying to store water. As camels do, we sat serenely, looking for hours through the branches at life over yonder on shore. Over there, vehicles went by. The grass was being mown again, the second crop this summer. No one dropped in on us. One afternoon, while we were dozing in the grass, enjoying the last rays of the sun, we suddenly heard the sound of an axe at work on the island. Cautiously raising ourselves, we saw, not far away, a man lopping branches and moving gradually toward us. In a fortnight, with no means of shaving, I'd grown a beard, a terrible reddish, bristling bush, and was now a typical escapee convict, but Zhdanik had no growth at all. He was like a smooth-faced boy, so I pretended to be asleep and sent him to head the man off, ask for a smoke, tell him that we were tourists from Omsk, and find out where he came from himself. If need be, I was ready to act. Kolya went over and had a chat with him. They lit up. He turned out to be a Kazakh from nearby Chekhov. Afterward, we saw him along the bank, get in his boat and row off with the branches he had cut. What did this mean? Was he in a hurry to report us? Or perhaps it was the other way around. Perhaps he was afraid that we might inform on him. You can do time for wood stealing too. That was what our lives had come to. Everybody feared everybody else. What did you say we were? Climbers? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Zhdanik always made a muddle of things. I told you to say hikers. What would climbers be doing on a flat step? No, we couldn't stay there. Our life of bliss was over. We dragged everything back to the boat and cast off. Although it was daytime, we had to leave quickly. Kolya lay on the bottom, out of sight, so that from a little way off, it would look like there was just one man in the boat. I rowed, keeping the middle of the Irtish. One problem was where to buy bread. Another was that we were coming into inhabited places, and I could no longer go unshaven. We planned to sell one of our suits in Omsk, buy tickets to several stations down the line, and get away by train. Toward everything we reached the boy keeper's hut, and went up there. We found a woman alone. She was frightened and began rushing around. I'll call my husband at once, and off she went, without me following to keep an eye on her. Suddenly Zhdanik called out from the house in alarm. Zhora, damn you and your big mouth. We had agreed that I would call myself Victor Alexandrovich. I went back. 2 men, one with a hunting rifle. Who are you? Tourists from Omsk. Want to buy some groceries? And to lull their suspicions, let's go to the house. Why are you so inhospitable? It worked and they relaxed. We've got nothing here. Maybe at the Sovkhoz, 2 kilometers farther down. We went. We went to the boat, traveled another 20 kilometers downstream. It was a moonlit night. We climbed the steep bank, a little house, no light burning. We knocked. A Kazakh came out, and this first man We sold us a half a loaf and a quarter sack of potatoes. We also bought a needle and thread, probably rather rash for us. We asked for a razor too, but he was beardless and had no use for one. Still, he was the first kind person we had met. We got ambitious and asked whether there was any fish. His wife rose and brought us 2 little fishes and said, "Beshdanga, no money." This was more than we had hoped for. She was giving them to us for free. These were really kind people. I started stowing the fish in my sack, and she pulled it back again. "Beshdanga, 5 rubles," the man of the house explained. The little footnote here says the narrator misunderstands the Kazakh word beshdanga, 5 rubles, as being Russian for bezdeneg, without money. So he thought they were free. So that's it. No, we won't take them. We won't take them too, dear. We rode on for the rest of the night. Next day, our 17th on the run, we hid the boat in the bushes and slept on some hay. We spent the 18th and 19th in the same way, trying not to meet people. We had all we needed: water, fire, meat, potatoes, salt, and a bucket. On the precipitous right bank, there were leafy woods. On the left bank, meadows, a lot of hay. In the daytime, we lit a fire among the bushes, made a stew, and slept. But Omsk was not far off, and we should be compelled to mix with people, which meant that I must have a razor. I felt completely helpless. With neither razor nor scissors, I couldn't imagine how I was going to rid myself of all that hair. Pluck it out, one hair at a time. On a moonlit night, we saw a mound high over the Irtish. Was it, we wondered, a lookout post from the times of Yermak? We climbed up to look. In the moonlight, we saw a mysterious dead township of abode houses, probably also from the early 30s. What would burn, they had burned. The mud brick walls they had knocked down. Some of the people they had tied to the tails of their horses. Here was a place tourists never visited. It had not rained once in those 2 weeks, but the nights were already cold. To speed things up, I did most of the rowing while Zhdanov sat at the tiller freezing. And sure enough, on the 20th night he started asking for fire and hot water to warm himself. I put him at the oars, but he shivered feverishly and could think of nothing but a fire. His comrade in flight could not deny him a fire. Kolya should have known that and denied himself, but that was the way with Djanak. He could never control his desires. Remember how he had snatched the riddle cake from the table, and what temptation the poultry was to him? He kept shivering and begging for a fire, but they would be keeping their eyes skinned for us all along the Irtish. It was surprising that no search party had crossed our path thus far, that we had not been spotted on a moonlit night in the middle of the Irtish and stopped. Then we saw a light on the higher bank. Kolya stopped begging for a fire and wanted to go inside for a warm-up. That would be even more dangerous. I should never have agreed, but we'd gone through so much, suffered so many hardships, and for what? How could I refuse him? Perhaps he was seriously ill, and he could refuse himself nothing. In the light of an oil lamp, 2 Kazakhs, a man and a woman, were sleeping on the floor. They jumped up in fright. "I have a sick man here," I explained. "Let him get warm. We are on official business from the Grain Procurement Agency." They ferried us over from the other side. "Lie down," the Kazakh said. Kolya lay down on a heap of felt, and I thought it would look better if I lay down a bit too. It was the first roof we had had over our heads since our escape, but it was on hot brick. I couldn't even lie still, let alone go to sleep. It felt as though we had betrayed ourselves, stepped into a trap with our eyes open. The old man went out wearing nothing but his underwear, otherwise I would have gone after him, and was away a long time. I heard whispering in Kazakh behind a curtain. "Young men, who are you?" I asked boy keepers. "No, we're from the Abai State Livestock Farm, #1 in the Republic. We couldn't have chosen a worse place. Where there was a state farm, there was officialdom and police, and the best farm in the Republic at that. They must be really keen." I pressed Kolya's hand. "I'm off to the boat. Come after me." With a briefcase. Out loud I said, "We shouldn't have left the provisions on the bank." I went through to the entranceway, tried the outer door. It was locked. That's it. Then I went back and alerted Kolya by pulling its sleeve and returned to the door. The carpenters had made a botched job of it, and one of the lower planks was shorter than the rest. I shoved my hands through, stretched my arm as far as I could, and felt around. There we were. It was held by a peg outside. I dislodged it. Excuse me, I'll just have a quick drink. Sorry. I went out, hurried to the bank. The boat was where it had been. I stood waiting in broad moonlight. Sorry, my throat is raw today. I stood waiting in broad moonlight, but there was no sign of Kolya. This was dreadful. Evidently, he couldn't make himself get up. He was enjoying an extra minute in the warmth, or else they had seized him. I should have to go and rescue him. I climbed the cliff again. 4 people were coming towards me from the house, Zhdanik among them. "Shora," he shouted, "Shora again. Come here, they want to see our papers." He wasn't carrying a briefcase as I told him to. I go up to them. A new arrival with a Kazakh accent says, "Your papers." I behave as calmly as I can. "Who are you then?" "I am the commandant." "All right then," I say reassuringly. Let's go. You can check our papers anytime. There's more light in the house there. We go into the house. I slowly lifted the briefcase from the floor and went over to the lamp, looking for an opportunity to sidestep them and dash out of the house, and talking all the time to distract them. Welcome to see our papers any time, of course. Papers must always be checked in such circumstances. You can't be too careful. We had a case once in the procurement agency. My hand was on the lock now, ready to undo the briefcase. They crowded around me. Then I butted the commandant with my shoulder. He bumped into the old man, and they both fell. I gave the young man on my right a straight punch to the jaw. He yelled, they howled. "Makladera, Makladera." I shouted and bounded with the briefcase through the inner, then the outer door. Then Kolya shouted after me from the entranceway, "Shora, they've got me." He was clinging to the doorpost while they tried to pull him back inside. I tugged at his arm, but couldn't free him. Then I braced myself against the doorpost with my foot and gave such a heave that Kolya flew over my head as I fell to the ground. 2 of them flung themselves on top of me. I don't know how I wriggled out from under them. Our precious briefcase was left behind. I ran to the cliff and bounded down it. Behind me I hear someone say in Russian, "Use the axe on him, the axe." Probably trying to scare us, otherwise they would be speaking Kazakh. I can almost feel their outstretched hands on me. I stumble and almost fall. Kolya is in the boat already. Good thing they didn't have a gun, I shouted. I pushed the boat out and was up to my knees in water. I ran along the bank yelling, "Grr, grr, grr." I shouted back at them. "Thought you had us, didn't you, you bastards?" Yes, it was lucky they had no gun. I made the boat race with the current. They bayed after us, running along the bank, until a creek barred their way. I took off my 2 pairs of trousers, naval and civilian, and wrung them out. My teeth were chattering. "Well, Kolya," I said, "we got warmed up, all right." He was silent. It was obviously time to say goodbye to the Irtish. At daybreak we must go ashore, and thumb rides the rest of the way to Omsk. It wasn't so very far now. The Katyusha and the salt had been left behind in the briefcase, and where could we get a razor? It wasn't worth asking myself how we could dry our clothes. Look on the bank there, a boat and a hut, obviously a boy keeper. We went ashore and knocked. No light came on. A deep male voice, "Who is it? Let us in for a warm-up." Our boat capsized and we were nearly drowned. There was a lot of fumbling, and then the door opened. In the dimly lit entrance, a sturdy old man, Russian, stood to one side of the door, arms raised, threatening us with an axe. He could bring it down on one of us, and there would be no stopping him. I tried to reassure him. "Don't be afraid, we're from Omsk. We've been on business to the Upeye State Farm. We intend to go by boat to the district center downstream. But there were nets in the shallows a bit higher up. We fouled them and turned over." He still looked suspicious and didn't lower his axe. Where had I seen him before? In what picture? An old man out of a foxtail, with his gray mane, a gray beard. At last, he decided to answer. "We were going to Zelenskaya? You mean?" "Fine. Now we know where we are. That's right, Zelenskaya. Zelensyanka. Sorry. And Zelensyanka. The worst of it is my briefcase sank and there's 150 rubles in it. We bought some meat at the State Farm, but we have no use for it now. Perhaps you'll buy it from us." Zhdanik went to get the meat. The old man led me into the inner room, where there was a kerosene lamp and a sporting gun on the wall. "Now we'll check your papers." I tried to speak confidently as I could. I always keep my documents on me. It's lucky they were here in my top pocket, or they would be soaked. "I'm Stolyarov Victor Alexandrovich, representing Provincial Livestock Administration. Now I must quickly seize the initiative. What about you?" "I'm a boy keeper." "Name and patronymic?" Just then Kolya arrived, and the old man didn't mention papers again. He said that he couldn't afford to buy meat, but that he could give us a drink of tea. We sat with him about an hour. He warmed up some tea for us on a fire of wood chips, gave us bread, and even cut a piece of fat bacon. We talked about navigation, channels of the Irtish, how much we had paid for our boat, where to sell it. He did most of the talking. He looked at us with compassion in his wise old eyes, and it seemed to me he knew all about us, that he was a real human being. I even felt like confiding in him, but it wouldn't have helped us. He obviously had no razor. He was as shaggy as everything else in the fort. Besides, it was less dangerous for him not to know. Otherwise, it would be you knew and didn't tell. We left him our veal, and he gave us some matches. He came out to see us off and explained which side we should keep to at which points. We pushed off and rode quickly to get as far away as possible. In our last night, they would be looking for us on the right bank, so now we hugged the left most of the time. The moon was hidden by our bank, but the sky was clear, and we saw a boat following the steep wooded right bank, going downstream like ourselves, but not as fast. Could it be an MVD operations group? We were following parallel courses. I decided to brazen it out, rode strongly, and came closer to them. Hey pal, where are you headed? Omsk. And where are you from? Pavlodar. Why so far? We're moving for good. His voice, with its peasant-ism, was too uneducated for an operations officer. He answered unhesitatingly, and he even seemed glad to see us. His wife was sleeping in the boat, while he spent the night at the oars. I looked in. It was more like an ox wagon, crammed with goods and chattels, heaped high with packages. I did a bit of quick thinking. A meeting like this, on our last night, in our last hours on the river. If he's pulling up his roots, they must be carrying provisions and money and passports and clothing, and even a razor. And no one anywhere will wonder where they are. He's alone and there are two of us. His wife doesn't count. I'll travel on his passport. Kolya can dress up like a woman. He's small, has a smooth face, and will mold him a figure. They must surely have a suitcase to help us look like genuine travelers. Any driver we meet will drop us in Omsk this very morning. Whoever heard of Russian River without pirates? Fate is cruel, but what else can we do now that we have left a trail on the river? This is our last, our only chance. It's a pity to rob a working man of his belongings, but whoever took pity on us, and whoever would. I have to stop there. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day.